Good morning. I'm Kristen Balasia, Head of Automotive Advisory at IHS Markit, and welcome to this edition of Fuel for Thought. Today I'm joined by my colleague Tom Libby, responsible for industry analysis and loyalty insights. Good morning, Tom.
Hi, Kristen. Good morning.
Today we're going to be talking about loyalty, and last week we celebrated the 2020 Industry Loyalty Awards. We had some historically strong repeat winners and also pretty exciting, some big contingent of new award winners. We heard directly in a virtual format this year. We were able to hear directly from some of the winners on what their organizations are doing to drive loyalty and stay on top. So we're going to start talking about, really the importance of loyalty. Tom, why do you think loyalty has emerged as such an important area of focus above and beyond just market share?
Well, Kristen, great question. Very interesting topic. And there are at least a couple of reasons why loyalty is really has become a high priority for brands and for manufacturers in the US. First of all, I mean, our data, which is hard registration data, it's indisputable. Our data show that a third of all retail registrations in the US in the 2020 calendar year were to loyal customers. So that's frankly, that's an enormous part of the market. And obviously nobody can ignore that. So basically a third of again, of the industry is loyal customers. So that's one reason. But another reason is that we found, because our data go way back, 20, 30 years, we're able to track the historical over time behavior of households and they return to market. And what we've discovered is very interesting, which is that a household that becomes loyal then becomes more loyal and even more loyal down the road. So it's like a snowball effect. And so if you can get a household that's had your brand for the first time to return to market, then they're in a sense loyal, but then there's an even higher probability they will return to you again. And then the same thing happens over and over again. So loyalty builds on itself. So those two reasons, really, it's very sensible. There's no question about it. The brands need to, and manufacturers need to focus on brand loyalty and also manufacturer loyalty.
Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned, looking at the data that we have and talking about loyalty over the past couple of decades, brand loyalty is often and historically one of the most watched metrics. But there's a notable shift to metrics and some changes in that area around the diverse or multicultural consumer. Why now?
Well, first of all, diversity in general in the United States is receiving more and more visibility, rightfully so. But also, if you look at the three major ethnicities that we track, Asians, Hispanics, and African Americans, they are growing. They are growing at a greater rate than the industry. I mean, the industry has really, as we all know, it declined in 2020. It's recovering now, but those three ethnicities are growing at a greater rate. And so obviously you want to try to appeal to any demographic group that is outperforming the industry. So we see a greater emphasis now on appealing to Asians, African Americans, and
Hispanics, yep.
Hispanics, yes.
And if you look at kind of the segment shifts too, I think that's interesting and maybe telling on some of the areas where the loyalty was the strongest, and some interesting trends when you look at, we're talking about loyalty, and I'm going to pivot a little bit here. If you look at the segment loyalty, I thought not just of the multicultural consumer, but the market in general. And segment and body style loyalty was really strong. Can you add some color to that and how that's really shifted over the years too?
Yeah, it's really amazing. But the shift to SUVs has really been, I think it's extraordinary. We now see loyalty to the SUV body style, regardless of brand, price, et cetera, et cetera. 71 or 72% of households with an SUV in the garage, the return to market, get another SUV, far higher than any other body style. The next one is pickups and then sedans, but far lower. So we see what's happening is it's really sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Since the manufacturers see the appeal of SUVs to the consumer, the manufacturers are now flooding the market. So we're seeing SUV lineups that are broader, based on price, based on size, based on powertrain technology, broader than sedans or pickups or any other body style. So, and actually, Pickups are also gaining in popularity with the loyalty to pickups now 55, 56%. We do see sedans going down, continue to go down. The loyalty to sedans had been in the mid 50s. You go back 5, 7 years ago, but now it has declined. So they're about 40% of sedan households that come back, get another one. But still, what's interesting there is that 4 out of every 10 sedan households that return to market get another sedan. And I think a lot of people who follow this industry would be surprised at how high that is, because a lot of people just sort of assume that sedans are done, they're all over, nobody's buying sedans. But frankly, 4 out of 10 is a pretty robust number. So there is still some interest in sedans, and frankly, that's an opportunity, particularly for brands such as your Asians that have sedans, a pretty good lineup of sedans and redesigned sedans, in their portfolio. There's a huge opportunity there. Something that doesn't get a lot of visibility. So we see a major shift to SUVs, and we see a shift to pickups with a decline in sedans. And frankly, those three body styles, Kristen, they pretty much dominate the market. I mean, your hatchbacks and convertibles and station wagons are a very, very minor part of the market. So those are interesting, loyalty trends to watch.
Sure. And interesting when, an OEM is looking across their portfolio to consider the opportunity that still exists with sedans and the opportunity to make sure there's no gaps, because as you mentioned, that loyalty to segment and to SUV being so strong, a previously very loyal customer, if they don't see that next step of what they're looking for in the portfolio, may be a real risk to go somewhere else, right? So another area is certainly the acceleration and move to EVs. And we track that as well. And we've really seen an increased loyalty shift in fuel type. What is going on there, and what do you think's behind that?
It is very interesting, actually. I mean, it's everybody's talking about EVs, and you hear about them all day long, and so on and so forth. And we're seeing some very interesting data. First of all, we're seeing the share for EVs going up gradually, but continues to go up. But in terms of loyalty, the EV loyalty has been going up. So that's basically the percentage of households with an electric vehicle in the garage to come back and get another electric vehicle. And if you go back 3 or 4 years, that was in the 30s and 40s, relatively low relative to other fuel types. But now we're seeing it between 50 and 65%. We're seeing it consistently over 50%. So for the first time now, we're seeing EV households, the return to market, they are more likely now to get another EV than to not get an EV. So that speaks very highly, very strongly about the increasing appeal of EVs. Also, somebody might say to the metric I just mentioned, well, that's just Tesla, but it's not just Tesla. If you pull Tesla out and you look at the Bolt owners and the Leaf owners and the e-tron owners and so on and so forth, and you look at what they do when they come back to market, the numbers are very similar. Again, more than half are buying another EV. So, I think there's a lot of reasons for that. One is it's almost like you can't spend 5 minutes without hearing about EVs. And the manufacturers, we read about it and hear about it every day. They are pouring money, resources, time, technology, engineering, et cetera, into the development of electric vehicles. So I think there's appears to be a general consensus, whether it's the media, the manufacturers, the general public, so on and so forth, that the industry is moving towards EVs. So I think that is helping out. Also, I just think that there's more on the market now with more coming. So all those contribute to the relative success of EVs. And the other thing I was going to mention is that because we're able to look at households that have every type of fuel type in the garage and what they do when they come back to market, we're seeing households for every fuel type, gasoline, diesel, hybrid, and electric, all moving to electric at an increasing rate. So it really portends very favorably for EVs going forward.
Yes, and that's exactly what I thought when you said that earlier, that it's not just a Tesla owner buying another Tesla. It really is, when people have that EV experience, I mean, the data is showing pretty promising that they are, buying another EV. And to your point, there's over, maybe just 20 models in the US today, but by 2025, we're forecasting over 100 new EV models coming to the US. And with that choice there, consumers having the experience now, or frankly, their neighbors or family or friends having that experience will be really positive and ideally support some of that momentum.
No,
So
I just very quick, if I could add to that, there's no question as more EVs come on the market, we're going to see more competition for Tesla, and that will actually put downward pressure on prices, and that will just help the movement even more. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, that's a great point. So we've touched a lot of different aspects of loyalty, and we've seen these driving shifts in loyalty. So final question I have for you. What can we expect to see, in your expert opinion? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but in way of new challenges or opportunities that'll continue to refine or maybe change the loyalty space?
Well, I think that one of the key items to bear in mind here is that there are not only the normal number of major redesigns and all new product launches coming in the next 2 to 5 years. But over and above that, we have a number of brands coming that are not in the market now, as well as you mentioned, the next several years, 100 some odd EVs coming, and a lot of those will be incremental models. So we're going to see competition like we've never seen before. And so basically, a brand is the first step a brand is going to have to do to survive is to hold on to its customers, because there's going to be such competition and such a movement in favor of conquesting. I mean, these new brands that are coming, whether it be Polestar or Rivian or Lucid or whomever, it's all going to be conquesting. And so they're going to be going after the existing, whether it's Mercedes or Tesla or Ford or whomever. And so the brands have to focus on keeping their existing customers. And there's a lot of ways to do that. And they need to develop a plan and execute a plan they already have in place for retaining customers. And that is crucial for your base. And then once you're able to do that, you can certainly go after conquesting. But remember, a third, that's industry wide, of all customers are loyal customers. So I see just increased competition leading to increased need to focus on loyalty and retention going forward in the next 5 to 7 years when we see substantial changes in the industry.
Right, absolutely. Well, exciting times for sure. Sure, there'll be some new names on the board as the next couple of years unfold. But Tom, I want to thank you for joining this episode of Fuel for Thought.
Thank
We'll
you.
be,
Thank you for having me, Kristen. I appreciate it.
we'll be back with more Fuel for Thought next month. To opt into our newsletter that provides more information on this topic and others, visit ihsmarket.com/auto newsletter.